Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Gyro. Today I'm offering you a very beginner friendly, as easy as possible build of kind of huge magnitude in the community of Path of Exile, something that is revolving around skill called Cyclone. This modification, this version of the build is called Cyclone Gladiator, and as many builds out there, this is a build that I adapted. This build was inspired by numerous other builds. With such popular builds, it's impossible to tell exactly who is the original author of this. There are so many authors, so many permutations of these builds. This one is my own. I welcome your feedback on this. I welcome you to try it out. And I do believe that it's very good, very fun to play, heaps of fun to play for beginners. And it's quite easy to achieve the level that is, you know, kind of a pass mark for a beginner, for a non-pro player who hasn't spent years and years in Path of Exile, to have fun and to have great results. Now, how this video is structured, I will try to keep it kind of nice and punchy, but there are things to say, so I guess there will be a little bit of rambling, a little bit of ranting in the background, as little as I can do. Please use the chapters in the timeline of the video. If this is the first time you're watching my videos, I always put video chapters in the timeline in case you want to fast forward to the next stage. What kind of builds of Cyclone, even Gladiator, can there be? Well, it depends on the weapon choices, and that will depend what nodes in the passive tree you will pick. You can choose to use 2 one-hander weapons. You can choose 2 one-hander axes, 2 one-hander swords, which is more typical. One big two-hander weapon, which can be also either a sword or a mace or an axe. And all these things that I've just said to you, they would influence how you build your character, and that's probably one of the big reasons why there are so many different builds of, for example, Cyclone builds out there in Path of Exile. It gives heaps of freedom, heaps of fun, because next time you might wanna, you love the gameplay of this, let's say, class and spec, and you would like to just build it slightly differently around different type of a weapon and see exactly how that fits into your playstyle. Once you get Cyclone, which in my opinion is fairly late in the game, you have to, I'm not gonna say suffer, because once you get Lacerate skill at level 12, your life becomes bearable, and bearable is an accurate word here. I am not being negative. It's just because Lacerate is a directional skill, you need to position yourself better. It still is not, it's not easy. It's not a Whirlwind Barbarian from Diablo. So what we are building here is a Whirlwind Barbarian equivalent of Path of Exile, with, as I just said to you already, specific choice of a weapon, which in your case could be a bit different, but then your build, your passive skill tree is also going to be different. Keep that in mind. I leveled with Cleave in order to hit as many enemies as I could with the sword. So Cleave was my weapon of choice, my skill of choice, which is not essential in this particular case. At 12 your life begins, and it's going to be a bit of a slog that I talked about in my previous video where I spoke about casters versus melee. At level 12 in Path of Exile you get Lacerate as a skill. Lacerate is a great skill. It benefits from the same support gems, and I assume that you know what support gems are. If you haven't, then you should check my channel for the absolute beginner guides to Path of Exile, where I explain all of that. Lacerate benefits from bleed, benefits from physical damage increase. So any of those kind of support gems that you could stick into the support sockets, into the linked sockets, good for you. Around level 30, when you enter the City of Sun, that's Act 3. That is where the Labyrinth for Ascendancy is, by the way, as well. You will, around that point in time, you will get Cyclone as the skill, as the gem, and as a skill, as a reward for one of the quests that you will do there. At that point in time, your life will become a little more fun and as intended. Once you have Cyclone, you need certain support gems. Let's take a look at that. I'm representative here of those players that don't have all the sparkly wings and everything imaginable under the sun. I'm only level 45. This is a build in progress, as I said to you. And what do we have here? The main thing, the main core gem cluster, kept as simple as possible to illustrate that this build can start shining and can start working pretty early on without any other fancy stuff. So we obviously have Cyclone. Cyclone is a channeled skill. You move towards a targeted location while spinning. Whirlwind Barbarian for my Diablo people, yeah? And you're building up stages, constantly attacking enemies and all that kind of stuff. It slows you down a little bit, cycloning slows you down. Some skills in the passive skill tree can increase that speed, but generally you'll be a little bit slowed down as you're moving. It's okay, there are ways to increase your speed, don't worry about it too much. And you do damage, yeah? And you support skills obviously make a big difference. What is our first most important support skill that you're gonna get early on? And that, as I said already, you'll start using and leveling that gem from the moment when you got Lacerate, if not earlier. It is the chance to bleed. This is a bleed build. So we are going to make everything bleed, whatever we can make bleed, however we can increase the amount of bleeds. We're going to look for, when you look for support gems, when you look for something to empower your Cyclone skill, you're going to be looking for chance to bleed. You're going to be looking for maim, because maim just increases physical damage gained, yeah? And you're going to look for cruelty support as well. Cruelty support is increasing more damage with hits and all that kind of stuff. Good stuff as well. So as I level this guy up further, and as I get better gear, and as I get something with 5 sockets, you know, and if I'm lucky 6 sockets, but not yet. But if I get an opportunity to add another support gem into here, I would do also Impale support. Impale is another ability which basically makes the target take more damage and, you know, and all that good stuff. So we are increasing our physical damage. We don't care about any other types of damage in this particular case. I am using Dread Banner. Dread Banner is something that you carry on your back. It looks whatever. I actually don't mind it. But essentially it reserves a little bit of mana, which is not much, only 10% of your mana. And you can carry a banner which makes nearby allies impale with attacks and lessens accuracy of nearby enemies. So this is great. You and nearby allies have 20% chance to impale enemies with hit on attacks, you know? So that is quite fantastic. The Dread Banner works 2 ways. You can click it again to also place the banner to gain a different effect, but I never bother doing that. I know that some pros will say to me, under some circumstances you should do that because it seems better or whatever. I don't blame those people for being super scientific, but that kills the fun of the game for me. So I am only just carrying that banner. First of all, reservation of mana is nothing, and extra chance to impale is fantastic. That is all I'm saying to you. What do I use here as well? It's in linked socket and it looks like it's supporting each other, but it's not. It's just me being a bit dumb here and a little bit kind of fast-paced with producing of this guide for you, my friends. I just put dash into another green socket that I have. Dash is my equivalent of teleport. Like I said to you, teleport is essential for your trials of, not trials of ascension, for your trials of ultimatum, the chaos trials or whatever they're called. Something that I reflected upon in a different video. If you're interested in tips on those, you need to be able to dash around periodically in order to stay alive. And we will talk about why it's so important in the pros and cons towards the end of this video, yeah? What else do I have here? I also have Blood and Sand. Blood and Sand is considered to be a very staple, very commonly used, noob-friendly ability, which is basically a stance. It enables a stance. So there is a Sand stance and there is a Blood stance. As description says to you, Sand stance you will use mostly when you're dealing with trash, when you're just clearing the maps, because it increases the area of your AoE, while reducing some damage that you get from certain types of damage. If you click on whatever button you mapped this ability to, if you click it again, you switch to Blood Stance, and you will see that in Ascendancy fight, where I'm focusing on a particular single enemy, I switch to Blood Stance. Blood Stance reduces the amount of AoE I'm doing, and it increases the damage that I'm doing. I think it speaks for itself. So that's a very good thing. Vitality is another aura. In my opinion, this aura is a bit expensive. I would say it's a little bit expensive because it reserves quite a bit of my mana, which is already not boosted by much. In Ultimatum trial, running around there like crazy, in the middle of a trial of Ascension, when things start heating up, it is actually quite important to have this extra thing, especially when your flasks are on cooldown and there are no other enemies to kill other than boss to replenish your flasks to heal yourself, for example. So that is all that I'm using as far as abilities are concerned. Let's take a look at the passive tree finally. We start with increasing our attack speed. We increase global accuracy rating, but that's more of a byproduct of it. I don't care about it too much. Attack speed, yes, thank you very much. Evasion and armor, yes, and life. So we need to start thinking about boosting whenever we can. First, you go to attack speed and damage, obviously, with any build. But kind of from about level 30, you start feeling that if you're not boosting your life and resistances, you're gonna suffer. You're gonna suffer and you're gonna stop enjoying yourself. Hold that thought, please. At the moment, kind of reflecting here very early levels that you're gaining and early points that you're spending, you're boosting your damage and you're going towards massive, big cluster nodes that are going to increase your damage or life regeneration wherever you can. So in this particular case, we're moving this way, increasing physical attack damage. Here we go to the first big important node, Master of the Arena, where we regenerate 1% of life per second. That's actually pretty good, especially early on in the game. We're increasing the physical damage. We're moving here through increasing of the life and evasion and armor to increase quite substantial Art of Gladiator node, which increases attack speed, global accuracy rating. Our goal, however, is not to linger in this area. Our goal is to start moving onto this highway, the highway that's going to take us left and up in the tree. We're going to use a two-handed weapon first of all. Yes, I mentioned to you that there are some successful Cyclone builds that I ran in the past, and I leveled much higher than level 45 with those. That was way before 3.14 patch, and I used two single-handed weapons. Back then it was fun, back then it made sense. Right now I tried at single two-handed weapon. We are increasing the damage with two-handed weapons. We are increasing it more wherever we can. We are going to also regenerate further. Golem's Blood is a very good node. We need as much life as we can, and we need to regenerate this life as much as we can. As you can see, I kind of got distracted a little bit, and this is not an end game or even close to end game build, which is why I moved on to the left to take some juicy nodes as opposed to enable, for example, this jewel socket. But if you will see the links that I will include in the description and in the comment below this video, pinned comment below the video, you will see that I encourage you to take a look at the path of building, at the POB link that will give you the full build, my intended full build, where I'm going with it. So you will see that it's open there in that build. So that is what I will do, but I will do it later. Over here there are couple good nodes. Bloodletting is very good because I said to you we are boosting our bleeding wherever we can, and we're increasing damage, we're increasing attack speed, we increase bleeding. Here we're going to proc also impaling. As I said, impale is very important to us for this build. That's what I'm going to do here as well. Over here, brinkmanship. Look, we're increasing melee strike range, which is very good, and we're going to get a little bit more of strength. So this is not a bad node cluster. Also considering that even the smaller nodes that lead to it, they will increase our melee damage and area of effect for our cyclone once we start cycloning around, yes? Because I decided to try two-handed swords for this build, and it's working fine for me so far, I went down all the way here to go to the Blade of Cunning, which increases physical damage with swords, and you will see that the cluster of the nodes on the left that I'm going to, this one, is also swords-based damage, yeah? As well as increasing maximum life and refusing enemies an ability to leech any life from me, which becomes an issue later in the game. We come here on this highway, as I mentioned to you, and we will take this semicircle, this massive increase for anyone who is using physical damage with swords. This is as far as the unfinished build and the vector for the build is concerned. The POB links obviously will show you the full build of my intent up to level 80, and that probably by that time you'll be educated enough to make your further judgment and pick the nodes that you need. Do you need more life? Do you need more elemental resistances? Do you need more damage? There's plenty of nodes for you to choose from, and use the search bar at the top to look for those nodes like life, like other kind of things, resistances. You just type it in, life, and you can see what gives you more life. It starts flashing on the screen for you. Let's talk a little bit, as promised, about Ascendancy. Like I said already and mentioned to you, Ascendancy is a labyrinth. You beat the labyrinth, you go through the labyrinth, and you beat little encounters that are like checkpoints through the labyrinth, so to speak. And at the end, once you beat it, you get a few nice drops, usually nice drops. I was quite lucky with this Duelist. And you also get a couple of points to spend and choose your class, kind of like class above Duelist. What are you? Are you a champion? Are you a slayer? Are you a gladiator? There is no right and wrong. You can take a closer look and you can decide how you want to play. You would have, you know, probably decided for yourself early on what is more important to you. For me, this build, I decided to play as a bleed-based build. What does it mean? It means that I don't have to maintain physical contact with my target. It gives me better tactical positioning. I could just cyclone through some tougher targets that did not die, and then I can cyclone onwards, and they would have been maimed, impaled and bleeding right now behind me, and die if not from the direct hit, then at the very least from bleeds. Which is why, from the descriptions that I read, from what I could understand, I welcome your feedback once again in the comments down below always, but from what I've read, from what I can see, for me it looks like this for the bleed enabled build, Gladiator works really well as a choice. So these are the picks that I've made here. We are looking at the Gladiator, and I went with attack speed and physical damage. Very noob friendly choice, can't go wrong with that. And I went with Blood in the Eyes, where the attacks have 50% extra chance to cause bleeding, attacks maim on hit, attacks have a chance to blind enemies with hits against bleeding enemies, and they take increased physical damage. Like, can't go wrong with that, can I? This is the Ascendancy path that I'm gonna choose, with the intent to take further increase in physical damage, attack speed, and gratuitous violence, so that bleeding enemies will explode, doing a lot of damage to the other enemies. I'm okay with this choice. I cannot see how we can go wrong with that, but that is what I would like to leave you with, my friends. Now, very quickly, because it's already a very long video, thank you very much for your patience if you watched the whole thing through. By the way, like and subscribe if you haven't already, because you're welcome in this casual club. Now, basically, what are the pros? Main pro of this build is the fact that sometimes we feel like having a bit of a visceral experience. Sometimes we feel like just mowing everything down as players. Sometimes we feel like we need this type of gameplay to enjoy ourselves, and that is the biggest benefit of it. Quite evidently, that's a huge benefit, and I think mowing it all down, pressing one button down and just seeing everything die in front of you is quite satisfying. So I think that's the biggest pro why you would ever roll something like this. Cons are plentiful. Once again, please take a look at my video where I talk about going melee in 3.14. Good luck. It was targeted at my fellow absolute beginners in Path of Exile, and it is, in short, it is referring to the fact that playing a melee character beyond midpoint of the game towards level 60, 70, 80 becomes much harder due to gearing, due to elemental ailments, due to the fact that you are in the face of the enemies and you take a lot more damage. It's harder to play and harder to keep up with your damage numbers in order to make sure that you are progressing and you're fine and you're safe and stuff like this. Survivability is not the strong point of this build. Even already build in progress, halfway there, I can tell you straight away, you're not doing it to be a tank. You are not doing it for that. You're doing it to kill them before they kill you. You're doing it to bleed them and roll away and cyclone away. It's fun, it's still fun, it's great. But it is not a tank, it is not a survivable full-on build if you change quite a lot of nodes there and go towards health, towards increased health pool, increased regeneration, and a lot of elemental resistances. And these are the pros and the cons that I would like to summarize for you. This is already a massively long video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please hit the like. It took me a lot longer to record it than it will take you to hit the like, so that YouTube knows that you enjoy my videos and it will show these videos to someone else. Please do that. And subscribe to the channel for more similar videos. Ask me questions. Like I said, I'm a very friendly guy. I'm not a pro, never pretend to be, but I'm happy to tell you what I know. Thanks again for being with me today, and I'll be speaking with you very soon again about something Path of Exile related. See you later. Bye-bye.
Please be advised that a noticeable taste of blood is not part of any test protocol.